Hello, mortals. How are you doing today? So today, I'm finally recording after I don't know how long it's been since I've recorded one of these, and that's mainly just due to my own mental state and pretty much only my mental state. It's been rough this last 2 weeks, dude. And I've just not progressed in like anything at all. I know that's a bad thing. Jesus, the fucking music, dude. uh, Let me start with that, I guess. So, for those who might be only listening and not having the visual cue, I have today planned to talk about horror because YouTube has recommended me horror stuff the past couple of days. And I basically went, I need to record something. I have horror in the brain. Might as well talk about it. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do that for, but I mean, it's something. And I have four categories, that being psychological, a person, which I feel like having murderer on screen wouldn't do very well for me, so I put person instead. Monster, and entry fan-made, which is like the SCP or the backroom stuff. And that's pretty much where we're going with that today. And rather than the normal stuff that I have playing from Spirit City, because Spirit City allows you to connect it directly to YouTube, I found a royalty-free playlist for horror. And apparently all the music, I believe, is made by a dude named Kevin McLeod? Kevin McLeod? Whatever. He's on screen right now if you want to see him. So far it's pretty interesting. It's pretty horror adjacent. I figured this would fit a lot better than the normal Spirit City stuff since I'm talking about horror specifically today. I don't plan on having this permanently for obvious reasons. I prefer to have more of a chill vibe than horror, but yeah, it is what it is. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, psychological thrillers are an interesting kind of horror because at least 90% of the time, if not 99% of the time, there's no supernatural aspect to it whatsoever that makes people think psychological. Actually, no, I guess no, that's not true either, because cultist stuff also falls into that. So, no, never mind. It's a lot more open than my initial knee-jerk reaction thought. But the main thing with psychological horror for me specifically is I can't watch psychological horror by myself because psychological horror makes me want to talk to someone while it's happening. Like, I want to discuss what the fuck we just saw and what just happened and where we think it's going to go. So I can't watch that shit by myself. And it's kind of frustrating because most people that I talk to regularly, while they don't dislike psychological horror, they're also pretty indifferent to it as well. Like, and honestly, I kind of am too, because it's not that it's not exciting, it's just not my type of horror that I like. Like, I like people's minds getting, like, fucked with, but it's more of, like, the primal fear that I prefer, rather than, something like, oh no, I don't remember the name of the movie, it's not coming up, that one movie with the twins in the hallway, come play with us, and the Here's Johnny thing. That movie. That's a psychological thriller. At least I'm pretty sure it is. I never actually watched it. I need to watch that, honestly. There are a lot of movies that, despite me knowing very well and all that, I never actually watched, that being one of them. The Shining, that's what it's called. The Shining. I remembered. Yeah, psychological horror is honestly extremely interesting because it's very hard to just look at it face value, and that's why so many people honestly don't just attach to it very well, because a lot of people, while they're okay with digesting things, psychological horrors usually need you to digest as you're watching, which is, once again, my main problem with them. I want to talk about what's happening in psychological horror as it's happening, and that's just the kind of person I am. And they can be really, really interesting, but also really, really fucking confusing, to the point where so many people have so many different viewpoints on what the fuck the message of the story. No one knows what the actual message is, even though the actual director said, hey, this is what this was about. And everyone just looks at the director like, you're lying to us. What is it actually about? I'm stuffed, sorry. And psychological is very... Honestly, I think out of all of the horror things, it's easily the one that shows the most creativity with the one that creates it. Just due to how complicated it has to be, because you have to think so maddeningly different from your normal state of mind to truly get the horror aspect of it. And it's definitely... While it has a lot of high praise whenever people bring it up, it honestly doesn't get talked about as much as it should, honestly, because it's a true craft to be able to make a good psychological horror. And props to every single psychological horror that has been made, even the shitty ones, because I definitely don't have the guts to truly try that. I would love to, but I don't think it can fit the puzzle pieces together to make a coherent story that actually is satisfying, honestly. I would prefer to go with one of my later categories of monster, truly. But psychological horror is very interesting because it delves into the whole human psyche of what we think is normal, what we can truly endure before we break, what happens when we finally break. And it's such a terrifying concept due to the fact that these are things that people don't like to think about, so much so that they literally never cross people's mind, and when they do, they literally break from the topic entirely. And that's probably why psychological horror doesn't get talked about that much. It's because it makes people so goddamn uncomfortable. Oh no, I can feel the heat starting in my room right now. At the date of this, where I'm located, it's gonna break 100 today, and it's already in the high 60. Actually, no. Hold on. It's the podcast. I mean, we'll just look shit up. What the fuck is the temperature? Oh my god, no. No. It's already 95 degrees outside. Oh fuck, I'm fucking gonna bake in here before this is over. Oh no. Oh, this is not going to be good. I might make this a shorter one because I would prefer not to die. Or I can make this my own psychological thriller. How long can I make my mind endure suffering from a near-heat stroke? I can't sound intimidating, dude. My voice just is not fit for it. But dude, psychological horror is so interesting. But you need to be able to talk about it, because just digesting it isn't enough, honestly, because to truly process it, you need to talk about it, because the talking aspect is what allows you to fully embrace what the fuck you just saw and what you experienced. And it's very, very, very interesting of a movie concept as a whole. And it's honestly, there's a lot of movies that have done justice, but once again, I've not watched a lot of them because just psychological thrillers are hard for me to kind of watch. Not because they're bad, but because they're above my pay grade. But that'll do it for psychological thriller talk. And next we'll go with Person, aka the Murderer. Murderer ones are extremely straightforward, and so much to the point where they're basically considered lowbrow horror and or comedy horror a lot of times. Look at you, fucking Scream. God damn it. Also, a little bit of Nightmare on Elm Street too. That one too. Oh, it's interesting with how straightforward the genre is, and how similar a lot of the monsters are. They can be extremely diverse, and of course, murder horror is not exclusive to its own genre. Like, I think the movie's called Hellraiser with Pinhead. I think that's the monster thing it's called. I've never watched that movie. I honestly don't know if I ever will. But that was apparently also a psychological thriller with monster entities in it. But then you also have stuff like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Halloween movies, and once again, Scream, which are so straightforward in how they do stuff that they easily get parodied by the Scary Movie franchise that happened so long ago. Oh god. Oh, those movies are so old. And they can be really, really fun, and most of them you honestly can't take too seriously. Obviously, of course, you can have an actual serious one. Like, those are the ones that tend to be more grounded in reality rather than having any type of like spiritual or hellish or anything like that kind of power set, where it's like a home invasion thing where someone's trying to survive against people trying to murder their family, or that one where people break into a blind dude's house and it's like an ex Vietnam survivor or something like that, and he just starts trying to murk them and they have to get out of there really quietly. Those are really, really, really fun and interesting. I know a lot of the non-supernatural ones kind of fall flat to the point where at the end they're like kind of show that, ooh, maybe there was some supernatural elements of this. Ooh, honestly, it's kind of funny how often that does happen, and I know a lot of them end up just kind of, instead of being in the horror murderer genre kind of thing, it's more of an action thriller rather than horror. Kind of like Taken from, or I was gonna say from, like I know who the fuck made that. Taken, that has Liam Neeson in it. If that was altered ever so slightly, that could easily have been a murder horror movie. Obviously, it's more like just a psychological action movie. I say psychological, it's not really that psychological. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. But point being, it's really easy to turn a murder horror into an action thing. Kind of like Freddy vs. Jason. Oh, Lord. Freddy vs. Jason was so bad. It's funny, not recently, but I watched it after I became an adult again. I was like, Jesus fuck, dude. Why did I think this was scary when I was a child? It's so bad. Oh, God. That's kind of the thing with a lot of, like, murder stuff, is that it's so easy to just lead into, like, fuck it, it's cool. Let's do it. And it's just a thing that I've noticed with a lot of things kind of both inevitably and don't become. Like, I think there was recently a Friday the 13th fan film that someone did for Jason, where they really leaned into the actual, like, murderer part of the horror rather than just a supernatural killer on the loose of it. I mean, Jason is always going to be supernatural. The dude is not natural whatsoever. But that's the thing, is the murder genre isn't so black and white to itself. There's a lot of grays within it, and it very obviously can go into multiple different genres, from comedy to psychological to other kind of things too. And obviously, I'm just saying random shit into a microphone. I'm no type of, like, reviewer or critic or anything like that. I'm just a dude stating his opinion on the internet, like all the others. I'm just doing my best not to say alpha pro gamer. That's because I'm nowhere near an alpha or a pro. I am a gamer, though. Arguably. honestly, I don't have too much to say on the person murderer genre, just because it, my view on it is very straightforward personally. While it can be like actually really fun and thrilling, most of the time it's actually kind of goofy and you're just along for the ride to see what the how people get murdered. Pretty much that's about it. It's just kind of that. And on that same note, that's how a lot of people view monster horror, which monster horror is easily the one that deviates from the horror genre so much, because you can have something like The Predator, but then you can also have something like The Thing, and these are two entirely different feelings that a movie is trying to inflict an emotion upon you, but they both fall under that horror monster trope. And it's so interesting because most monster horror movies are trying to invoke that sense of fear into you, and ghost movies I feel also fall under the whole monster genre. It technically, I guess, more falls under supernatural horror rather than monster, but just with how a lot of them do it, it's less supernatural, which would be more like a psychological thriller and more like a monster movie with a bunch of fucking jump scares and shit. Doesn't mean that the supernatural ghost movies can't be that. Like, for instance, The Ring is a monster movie, technically, but honestly, I would say it goes more into psychological horror than it does a monster movie. Because the Ring Girl tortures the ever-loving fuck out of everyone psychologically, and it's such a deep view into what people were willing to do to survive. And that's a fun thing that can happen with a lot of both psychological horror and monster movies that doesn't really pop up in murder horror movies, is what it shows a lot of times what people are willing to do, what people are willing to sacrifice to be able to just keep living. I think it's like it's like Truth or Dare or something like that. There was a movie where the fucking protag, or the last living survivor, whatever the fuck, basically puts out the fucking game Truth or Dare, where they were playing with a fucking demon that forces you to play Truth or Dare. And she basically just makes an internet video asking Truth or Dare, basically spreading the virus that is the demon's game to the entire fucking world like a little bitch. Because the more people that play, the more time you have until it's your turn. Or like kind of like I don't remember what the movie is called, but there's like an unstoppable force that literally can't be stopped, that only you can see, and it just takes the appearance of some random person, and they're always walking towards you to kill you. And the only way to stop it is to have sex with someone, and it basically passes. It's basically an analogy for STDs and whatnot, and basically the whole thing is very interesting because do you just try to avoid it as long as you can, hope for the best, or do you fuck someone, pass it to them, and hope that they live long enough to you not have to worry about it for a while, or that they pass it on to someone else so that you can worry about it even less? It's a very interesting mental concept of what would you do to survive? What are you willing to sacrifice? How much are you willing to fuck someone over to survive? That's the question. And a lot of monster movies, well, a lot of them can also fall into like the whole murder person thing, where it's more like a action thriller if you're hoping to see how people die. a lot of them go into that primal human need of survival. Uh, I think a good example that kind of also fits into that more actiony version of it is the Alien franchise, specifically the second one, because the first one is straight up true fucking horror, dude. There's no way around that. That is a horror movie through and through. But the second one shows what people are willing to do to survive, and what people are willing to do to protect others specifically. Like, whew, the Alien franchise, it can be extremely straightforward murder monster things. A lot of the time, it also has like that psychological element to it. Granted, the last movie is not so much, but that original trilogy kind of had it. Was it a trilogy? I don't think it was a trilogy. I think it was a duo, and then it made a third one. I don't remember, dude. It's been so long since I've watched the original fucking Alien movies, dude. It's been so long. I really need to go back to those. I suppose another one that fits into the action genre rather than actual horror. The 2016, was it 2016, 2014? The first Legacy Godzilla monster movie. Obviously, it's a Godzilla movie, so it's like it's an American Godzilla movie, so it's very action packed. However, there's a very clear horror aspect of just the true power of the three titans that are in the movie, of the male Muto, the female Muto, and Godzilla himself. So much so that I actually, even though they're not, I do want to put them in. I do want to put it in the horror genre just a little bit, because they do have a bunch of like in awe actual horror things of there's nothing we can do. We are fucked. And just seeing how people do what they try to do to survive and save themselves and save others around them, it's very interesting. Yeah, to think about it that way. Obviously, you clearly don't have to, and most people don't, but it's it's definitely there, especially in that first one. Not so much in the later ones, but in that first one especially, it has a very, very horror vibe for my point of view. I think one of my favorite original monster movies was actually Tremors, because the Graboids were so easy to ignore in concept with their monster rule of, as long as you're not on soft soil, you're fine. However, when you put that setting in a desert, all of a sudden, this simple, easy to understand rule becomes horrifyingly hard to do. Add the fucking dolphin and elephant level intelligence that the Graboids seem to possess, and it doubles the horror factor so much. Because once again, all you have to do is just not be on soft soil. But these things are relentless, they're smart, and they hold a grudge. Like, seriously hold a grudge, dude. And then that's not even considering the second movie before they became an actual, like, comedy action movie kind of thing. Where it still had the kind of horror elements of it with the Screechers. Because the Screechers also took the simple rule and changed it into something entirely different. As long as you're out of reach, and as long as they can't see you, you're fine. But unlike the Graboid, where a certain setting makes that really hard to do, the Screechers, no matter where you are, unless you're in a goddamn fridge, it's so hard to accomplish that goal. Because they're heat sinking, they run really fast, and they have a terrifying appetite. A truly horrific appetite. Dude, it's man. It's amazing how some like really bad like horror movies from back in the day actually had like really good concepts for horror. Although actually watching them, they don't really play out that way. But you can see that the elements are actually there. Oh, I don't remember what this one was called, but there's this one where some weird ritualized leaves or something mutated a dude into like this monstrous four-legged creature that was just running around just murking people and eating a specific part of their brain that helped with growth, basically. And that monster design is what truly, I think, awakened my love for monsters in general, because that monster, oh, it's so fucking cool. Even now, I can picture it perfectly in my head, and I love that thing's design. Especially the last scene, where it's running on fire towards the main character. Holy fuck, it's so goddamn cool. I love that thing. It's like called, I think the movie's like called The Relic or something like that. And, oh, it's so fucking good, dude. Not the movie itself. The movie is alright. But the creature, it's so cool. That's another thing with monster movies that make them my favorite, is just the actual design of creatures, because you can go with something so goddamn bland to where it's basically just very clearly someone wearing a suit, a very, very low quality, very unedited suit, to something like the Xenomorph that was created by H.R. Geiger, who has so much symbolism into it, so biomechanically looking, that our brains struggle to truly register what the fuck we're actually looking at. And going back to The Thing, even, where there's no like true design of a creature, it is body horror. Oh, that's another genre I could have talked about. Body horror. Yeah, it's not on a list. I don't care. I'm already starting to cook. It's almost been 30 minutes. But yeah, it's still a monster movie, but it deals heavily into that psychological aspect in it, to where it can literally be anyone, and it's transforms into such horrific, unlogical things that it breaks your mind just looking at it. And that's the interesting thing with it. Honestly, The Thing is such a interesting concept. I really want to watch the prequel one to it, too, that came out in like 2012 or whatever. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I love the monster design of it, so I want to watch it, but I just never did. But with that, I'm going to move on from monsters, because now we can throw all this lovely shit into a giant pile with the entry fan-made horror, aka SCP, The Backrooms, some other things. I know there's at least one more. There's probably dozens more. But these are just fun little things that honestly even like Reddit horror stories even fit into. Where it's just personal, not big project things. They're just written out, and they're so compelling that it literally starts entire communities around a concept of just some written paragraphs. And that is such a compelling thing for horror, because while not all are actually horror, most of them are, because there's such a interesting concept to just type out an interesting idea you have, throw it to the world, and see how they perceive your vision. And once again, this is basically fits every single horror genre as a whole, as well as other genres themselves that aren't even horror, because that's what it is. Honestly, for me, my main thing is I hate when people have a very clear, especially with Reddit stories that I listen to on YouTube, I hate when it's very clearly I'm the OC. I'm a true badass. Herpaderpader. I'm gonna win this with my bare hands, while no one else could, not even the superpowered dude who died like a bitch. And I get the girl in the end, too. Those stories suck so fucking bad, dude. I hate those ones. I hate to get strung along with, like, an interesting concept at the start, only to have it end up being that, and it's like, oh, so promising, and then you just flop so hard in your fucking face, dude. And with the entry fan genre, it's so interesting because, unlike with, like, the cinematic angle, which, well, it doesn't have to be. Most of the time, it's very limited due to, budget reasons or, director or sponsor, limitations. Even though the writers would like to do more, they get reined back in for one reason or another, and they can't show their true vision, so it ends up a lot of the time not really breaking out of the box that's already been established for horror at this point. Meanwhile, with the fan-made entries, they can go wild because the only thing they have to worry about is a character limitation. And that's what makes it so satisfying a lot of the times, is that they can truly do something entirely different that you haven't seen before, just because they don't give a fuck about someone is paying them to do it. They don't give a fuck that there's some director telling them, no, we can't do that. They're just doing whatever they feel is right or what they want to do. And that's why you can get such an interesting thing. And that's why I have it as his own little entry. Even though I don't have that too much to say about it, it's just that it breaks the horror genre wide open to so much more possibilities than what we have in the mainstream media as a whole, just because we don't have to worry about limitation of greedy little bitches. But I'm starting to cook. It's getting really hot in my room, so I'm going to end this recording here. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and if you liked, please leave a like, and if you would like to see more content, please subscribe. I do hope you have a very lovely day. Goodbye. Stay cool.